Streaming, and then we're going to manage recording. It's always like as if this is the first time I've ever done this. All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ding, there's that noise again, which means we are in your ears and eyes, and we are Leftist Lens. I am James, and you are
Matt.
What a week it's been.
It has. A lot of stuff happened again. Stuff we didn't know we were going to be talking about.
Fuck.
As usual. The biggest story of the week, I think, is a pair of West Virginia National Guard soldiers were shot by an Afghan national that was brought to the U.S. after serving with the U.S. Special Forces Command under the CIA in an Afghan army unit during the war with the Taliban, and was granted asylum in the United States in April of 2025 by the Trump administration after he drove from Washington State to Washington, D.C. to carry out his mission. I mean, terrorist attack. How do you not be a conspiracy theorist, James? I don't know. It's getting harder.
I don't know. I still get very angry with the people who are immediately yelling false flag, and
But here's the thing. He could have gone to LA. Right? He could have gone to Portland. Why did he have to go to Washington? All the way across the country. Very strange.
Well, he's alive, right?
Yes.
Okay. I imagine, and this is the problem, is that this is going to be prosecuted by the Trump DOJ, and you can't believe anything they say. You can't trust anything they say. I was about to say, well, we'll get the facts soon in the hearing. No, we won't. It's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, one of the soldiers that was shot has died.
Well, I heard last night both of them died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, let me check if that's true.
I bet, I don't know. We shouldn't have American soldiers in American cities. But I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that.
Your statement is absolutely correct. These young people died because they were sent somewhere as a prop by a narcissistic president, and they would still be alive today were they not being used by him. I read an interview with the boyfriend of shoot me for not remembering her name, but the female guardsman that died, saying that she was complaining about the deployment because it had no practical mission statement. There was nothing for them to do. There was no reason for them to be there.
Right.
Now, if we can speculate all day long, if the National Guard were never there, was this guy still going to enact what he did? Was he going to? We may never know. I certainly don't. I certainly don't trust anything that we may learn about this coming from the prosecutors in this case. But yeah, that's part of what we're living with.
Sarah Beckstrom is her name, by the way.
There you go.
All right. Moving on. The cases against James Comey and Letitia James have been dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, we learned that the case against Comey was not properly presented to the grand jury and was probably going to get dismissed for that reason. But turns out the judge decided that the prosecutor that was appointed by Pam Bondi was appointed illegally. And therefore, the indictments never happened. It's important distinction. Both cases were declared void. The indictments were declared void. It wasn't the same as like just dismissing a case. So can the DOJ bring charges back? Maybe. Against Letitia James, they probably can, but there are legal experts that are arguing that James Comey's statute of limitations have run out. The initial indictment happened just days before the statute of limitations ran out on his alleged crimes. And since the indictment never actually happened in a legal manner, maybe that expired. Normally, if you file charges, then that locks in the statute of limitations date, so you can still prosecute. So
was it the same grand jury that saw the indictments on Letitia James that saw the indictments on James Comey, or is it different? Or is it a different grand jury?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because that was my question about the basis for which, because there was other rumblings about, before the judge dismissed this, there were other rumblings about improprieties with this case, at least with the Comey case. And then the overriding issue being the illegal appointment of, what's her name, Halligan, whatever the fuck her name is.
Yeah, Lindsay Halligan.
I assume that if Halligan hadn't been deemed appointed illegally, that the other mishandlings of this case, again, at least in Comey's case, would have resulted in, it looked like the judge was already leaning toward dismissal, but then the judge chose so that is my question. The judge chose that issue because it's a larger issue, I think.
Yeah, I guess. And I don't know, maybe he decided that he couldn't dismiss it just on the, so what happened with the grand jury was, a number of charges were presented to a grand jury, and they did not return indictments on some of the charges. And Lindsay Halligan just took the charges that they did return indictments on and filed those. And apparently what you're supposed to do is take out the charges that they did return indictments on and present those separately again, just by themselves, because I guess their deliberations could be different if they don't have the other charges to compare them to. Mm-hmm. And she didn't do that. So that's the impropriety there.
Right. But those improprieties are moot when you get to the fact that that person shouldn't be there to begin with.
Right. She should have never been presenting anything to the grand jury.
Right.
So yeah, I think that misdeed preceded misdeeds with the grand jury. That's probably why that's the one that caused the dismissal.
And that those misdeeds were not mentioned in the dismissal of the case, again, because they are moot, because you had a false actor in there pretending to be a DA or whatever the hell she was. Ugh. And she's still in that position, is she not?
I don't know. I mean, no, I mean, not officially she's not, but maybe, I don't know. You have to ask Pam Bondi.
Well, I mean, Bondi has come out and said, "Oh, we're going to appeal," and Trump has praised Halligan as a great attorney. And
look, why does Trump keep getting incompetent attorneys? Because competent attorneys
won't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. Won't touch the stuff that he's trying to do.
Yeah, and that was one of the issues that I saw brought up before this dismissal, was that the fact that credible attorneys in the DOJ said this is not admissible. This is not a case that was not allowed to be disclosed to the grand jury, apparently, or there was some argument about that. But you're right. Yeah, anybody with an ounce of credibility doesn't want to be anywhere near it. Anybody that Trump touches, or anybody that chooses to associate with Trump, dies. They either die in a legal, professional sense, or they die in the literal sense. You people are just, woo.
All right, moving along. We're going to talk about war crimes for a little bit. So video came out this week of one of these boats that our military keeps bombing in the Caribbean, that they claim are drug boats. A video came out where two survivors of the attack on the boat were clinging to the wreckage, and a second missile came in and hit them a second time. And along with that came the accusation that Pete Hegseth himself directly ordered that, said kill everybody. That is a war crime. Let alone if you believe Trump's assertion that this is a war, because the only way you can just kill people without due process is in war, and he's declaring the war on drugs to be like an actual war, and I think that's flimsy. So the initial attack is probably a war crime too, but the second attack of once people are no longer combatants, you're not allowed to kill them.
And there's a committee in Congress, Republican-led committee, by the way. I can't remember the label of the committee. Maybe you do. That has initiated the investigation into the Pentagon and Pete Hegseth regarding his order, kill them all. And so it's going to be, this is again one of these critical pieces that if this committee in Congress fucks this up, this is it'll be Merrick Garland level failures. Any other SecDef in history that would have done a fraction of the embarrassing, illegal things that Pete Hegseth has done in the few months that he's been SecDef would have resulted in them being run out of town on a rail. And then now you have fucking Trump issuing make-believe NOTAMs. A NOTAM is a notice to airmen regarding airspace over Venezuela. He put out a tweet saying that the civil or pilots, air traffic controllers, drug runners, and all this other shit, the airspace over Venezuela is closed. No, the fuck it isn't. First of all, both the FAA and another organization, I have to go back and look the story up, but they've said no, the airspace over Venezuela is not closed, and it can only be closed in a specific way under a declaration of war. And so again, you're not going to get Congress issuing a declaration. And I know we haven't had that happen since fucking World War II. But it's all this technicality around declarations of war and the rampant use of our military to kill and destroy things around the world. This needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that requires, this is one of the things that any Democrat running in the next 2.5 years needs to put on their talking points, is fixing this issue of the abuse of the military.
Yeah. I mean, Congress hasn't officially declared war since World War II, but in every other use of military, they at least did a vote of support. And
after the fact,
money. Sometimes it was after the fact. That's true, but they at least did that. And in this case, they haven't done that either. So,
there was. I'm gonna just interject this. Then, prior to World War II, during World War II, and prior, the way that wars were funded were through things called war bonds. And war bonds were sold to the public. Public bought them. And so in order to prosecute a war, the public needed to not only approve of it, but they had to fund it directly out of their own pockets. And that was how wars were funded, World War II and prior. And I know, and the reason we don't do that anymore is because we're not on the moral high side with 99% of the military actions we take around the world, and the public would not support this.
The public in general doesn't like war. The public didn't want World War II until Pearl Harbor happened.
Yeah.
Roosevelt wanted to help Europe in World War II, but the public didn't, and Congress wouldn't declare war, so there was no war. Yeah. But then after Pearl Harbor, support coalesced behind that, and that's how that happened. Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, we wouldn't have wars if you had to have the public, because it's the public, it's the working class that goes and dies in wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't want to die in wars, so
Yep.
they're not going to support wars.
Yep. It's a very small slice of the population that, were it up to the public to send their sons and daughters to the front lines and their money, that would actually be exuberant about doing so. There's the, let's jump back real quick to the National Guard story, because there was also some conflicting information in the first 48, if not 72 hours, that was coming out from both the press and the politicians about the status of those two guardsmen that were shot. This was before the what's her name again? Fuck. The guardsman that died.
Oh, Sarah Bergstrom.
Yeah, before she actually passed away, their politicians and the press were both saying, "Oh yeah, they're both dead," and it was
the governor of West Virginia said that.
Yes, it's so irresponsible in my perception of this is that they ran to that conclusion because they wanted that to be the conclusion, because a live soldier is useless. It's not politically expedient. There's nothing about a live soldier that has any value to a politician or to the press, but a dead one, whoa, that's good stuff. That's exactly what they want. And so, yeah, they rushed to say, oh, yes, they've been shot and killed. Oh, well, maybe not. Well, she's going to die, so let's just treat her like she's dead anyway. Fuck, man, we are in some dark goddamn times.
Yep. So we talked about the Pete Hegseth's war crimes. Now we're going to go over to Gaza. A video was released this week. I don't know exactly when this happened, but the video came out this week. It shows a group of IDF soldiers opening an overhead door, like a garage-style door. And there are two Palestinian men inside. And there's no sound, but it appears as though the Israelis are giving them orders, because they both raise their hands. Then one of them lifts his shirt to show he doesn't have a gun in his waistband or something. And then the Israeli soldiers throw him to the ground, take turns kicking him, then pick them back up, shove them back into the building they were just ordered to come out of, and shot and killed them. That is a war crime. They had taken them prisoner and then decided to kill them. You can't do that. Israel does that all the time.
Yeah. Jesus fucking Christ.
You cannot kill combatants that surrender. You just can't. So yeah, United States and Israel, two countries committing war crimes all over the planet. Would the rest of the world like to do something about that?
Unfortunately, we're going to get into this at the end of the podcast, the parallels that are happening right now. But it really starts with the countries that are committing these war crimes internally holding. This is why the issue with Congress doing this investigation with regard to Hegseth is so fucking important. Because if the internal country, if the actual country that is the home of these war criminals is not willing to prosecute these things, and the countries that are doing these war crimes aren't members of the ICC. They threaten the ICC. They disavow it.
Is it just us in Israel that aren't members? Is the entire rest of the world members of that?
No, but I mean there are a handful of other countries also dirty like us in Israel.
But all of Europe has signed that.
Yeah.
All of Asia, China signed it.
Which is why when Netanyahu travels somewhere, he does not overfly the countries that are members of the ICC. He avoids this because, and would Interpol have the stones to actually grab these fuckers? I don't know. I think if we could, there's a thing at the end of our itinerary today that I'm going to comment on that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, normally, I mean, other countries have definitely put their heads of state in prison. Brazil just sentenced their MAGA-like former president to prison. France and Italy have both had presidents in prison recently.
But that's the thing, is that in this case, if we don't cut the head off the fucking snake, all the head is going to do is pardon anybody. Like if Hegseth were to get convicted of these war crimes, and by the way, every naval officer that had their hands on those actions would get the same sentence, Trump would pardon them the next day.
That's true.
So if Trump isn't impeached and convicted and removed from power, the hope of actually convicting any of these local war criminals that we have running the Pentagon is completely lost. And so I hope that this committee in Congress is considering this, the fact that, look, we could convict Hegseth tomorrow, because if they did, Trump would pardon him. It's just fucking that. We can't be the only ones talking about this. These fucking people in Congress have to be acknowledging this.
I'm sure they are. The problem is, and I've heard plenty of Democrats say that in private, Republicans will tell them that they want to impeach Trump. They want him out of office, but they feel it's political suicide, so they won't.
There can't be the bottom line with this, with the Hegseth issue and everything else attached to it, is that you can convict these people, but it's going to be meaningless, because they will be pardoned and elevated the next fucking day without removing Trump from power. This has got me fucking furious.
Well, speaking of pardons, Prime Minister Netanyahu is he's about to go on trial for corruption charges. These were filed way back in 2019. It involved taking bribes and things like that. 3 separate cases. And Netanyahu asked President Isaac Herzog of Israel to pardon him ahead of time. And apparently Trump also sent a letter to Herzog asking him to pardon Netanyahu. So
well, he also said that when he spoke in front of the Israeli parliament, the Likud or whatever, I can't think of the name of the entity, but he said that directly to Herzog in that speech too.
Yeah. So that, just if heads of state commit crimes and then just get pardoned, doesn't work. But also other pardons are happening. While Trump is continuing to commit his war crimes, bombing boats and talking about invading Venezuela because they believe Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, is a drug trafficker, the United States has a former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, in prison, currently serving a 45-year sentence on a federal conviction of drug trafficking, the exact thing that Trump wants to invade Venezuela over, he says, and Trump's going to pardon him. So what is it? I mean, obviously the invasion of Venezuela isn't really about drug trafficking. That's just how he's selling it to the public. But if you're the public and you're watching him try to sell you on that, and then you see that another drug trafficker, a former head of state of a different country, is currently serving a prison for drug trafficking, and he doesn't believe that that guy belongs in prison, you got to see through the bullshit. You have to.
This reminds me of Marjorie Taylor Greene and her basis for turning on Trump, if you will. There was, I saw, there's a creator on TikTok that I followed, Jess Talk, and she read an open letter from Alyssa Milano to Marjorie Taylor Greene that is probably the most scathing rebuke of her false morality and her part in all of what we're living with. And I'll put in the final upload of this, I'll put a link to the reading of that letter to MTG. But I don't know how there isn't just a mass abandonment of that man at this point. There's a trickle. There was something else about a third congressman resigning, a Republican congressman resigning in the last 24 hours too.
There's been reports that several might resign, enough that the Democrats would take the House before the midterms. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. And that the special election in Tennessee on December 2nd, I want to say.
Yes, December 2nd.
Is really close.
Well, and then there's shit going on in Tennessee that Republican voters are receiving mailings from the Republican committee in Tennessee saying that we're going to find you if you don't vote. We're going to track you down. Basically, it's a threat. It's a direct threat. And then Democrat registered voters are receiving mailings that are coming from the Republican Party saying, vote in the special election on December 3rd. So Democrats are being told that the wrong date intentionally so that they can't vote. And Republicans are being threatened if they don't vote, they're going to be hunted down by the Republican Party.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Listen, no matter where you live, elections are on Tuesday. They're always on Tuesday. Okay? Always. They are on Tuesday. Federal elections are always on Tuesday. So if you live in Tennessee, please go vote in that special election this coming Tuesday, December 2nd.
And if you're a Republican in Tennessee who has received this threat from the Republican Party, definitely vote. But don't vote for the fucking Republican. You've got your work cut out for you people.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get into a little bit lighter stuff now. So back when Israel was bombing Lebanon, apparently we were bombing Lebanon too.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a bomb, a glide bomb, which is relatively new and highly classified technology.
Yeah. Yep.
That we dropped on Lebanon, and it didn't explode. So Lebanon has it. And Marco Rubio called up the Lebanese government and said, can we have that bomb that we dropped on you back, please?
It's funny because the stated reason that they're begging for this unexploded ordnance back is because they don't want Russia or China to get their hands on it. Well, this is basically a JDAM. It's a bunker buster that has been adapted with a kit that allows it to have wings and can travel further. Russia has been using the modifications to their own ordnance in the same way since very early in the Ukraine war. So I don't know that Russia or China is really seeking that vociferously. They don't think that they're craving for this ordinance, but it's comical as fuck that Rubio thinks, oh God, please give us the bomb back.
I don't know. They might. Lebanon might, because there could be threats that go along with it.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure there will be.
Who knows? But yeah. In other news, this weekend, another university paid the ransom to the Trump administration to get their federal funds unfrozen. Northwestern University, a school in Chicago area, agreed to pay $75 million to the federal government in a deal with Trump. Other schools that have paid the ransom are Brown, Columbia, and Cornell. The University of Virginia made a deal because they agreed to end their programs of unlawful racial discrimination. What were those? Those were the DEI stuff. So the claim is that they're racist against white people. You cannot be racist against white people in this country. You just can't. You cannot be racist against the party or the people that have all the power. Anyway, and University of Pennsylvania. These are all Ivy League schools, by the way, not University of Virginia, not Northwestern, but Brown, Columbia, Cornell, UPenn. Those are Ivy League schools. Why is he targeting them? There are thousands of universities in this country. Why do you think Trump's?
Why do you think?
Yeah, because they're the most elite, I guess, the best educations, and Republicans fucking hate education, hate it, absolutely hate it. Well, the University of Pennsylvania, they agreed to ban transgender athletes because they're the ones that had Leah Thompson, that transgender swimmer, swim for them. So they agreed to ban that transgender athletes in the future, and to write personal apology letters to every woman that ever lost a race to Leah Thompson. That's absurd. And I really wish they didn't agree to do that, but they did.
Fuck. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. By the way, James, we still
Yeah.
don't have the Epstein files.
Well, there's a 30-day window, but
right, but nobody talked about it this week. It wasn't in the news. All this other shit was in the news.
Yep.
That wasn't in the news anymore. It needs to stay in the news.
And so I wonder about this. When you say in the news, you're talking about the variety, mainstream and otherwise, media sources that report on this stuff. In this day and age, the amount of information that many of us get isn't sourced from major media sources. It's sourced from citizen journalists on social media applications. And the degree to which we get our information and we trust our information coming from citizen journalists in social media, as compared to I don't want to say legitimate media sources, but mainstream media sources, that today I'd love to see numbers on this, because it's moving more and more in that direction.
That's true. I mean, young people in particular tend to get their news that way. People our age, James, most of them are still into the legacy media. You and I are exceptions.
Crazy. Yeah, people turn off the fucking television. Don't use your television anymore. Just listen to us. That's all that's necessary. Just we'll take care of you. Don't worry.
Now, James, you watched the new movie Nuremberg and you wanted to talk about it.
I'm embarrassed by, first of all, the fact that it's history. It's real. It's not. This isn't fiction. There were liberties taken with the story and the characters for sure. But I came off of watching that movie last night, shook, because throughout the trial portion of that retelling of history, you could have closed your eyes and imagined any member on the stand of this administration, instead of, I think the only one they showed testimony of was Goring. But everything that he said, which is factual, which is recorded for history, could have been said by Pam Bondi, could have been said by Kristi Noem, could have been said by Hegseth, could have been said by Caroline Leavitt on that stand regarding circumstances of present day. And the gamble that was inherent to putting that court together and pursuing these prosecutions was enormous. It was an enormous risk. And I again came to the parallel of the purported risks that were involved with Merrick Garland and Jack Smith, and Letitia James and these other people that were attempting to prosecute this administration for their crimes during their first term. But the roadmap was there. The roadmap was there. They expedited the Nuremberg trials for a reason. Merrick Garland dragged his feet in prosecuting Trump's crimes because he's a fucking coward. Merrick Garland needs to be put on trial as much as anybody else. But that entire movie, you could have replaced any of Goering's testimony with any of this administration's flying monkeys, and it would have been accurate applied to today's circumstances. And the fact, and this is the thing that left me feeling defeated, is that while the Nuremberg trials were the template for prosecuting international war crimes, and I'd only know of one other case, and I'm certain that I'm wrong about this, but Nicolae Ceausescu of the
Romania?
Romania, yeah, he was prosecuted under.
Wasn't he hung by the people in the streets?
Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm looking for other cases since World War II that we've used that court. I know that there have been, but it left me feeling defeated because I know we'll never see Hegseth tried in the Hague or anything similar. Trump, every member of this administration, the minister of propaganda, Caroline Levitt, needs to be tried the same way that the minister of propaganda for fucking Nazi Germany was tried for the same reasons. The express hatred of people other than the purebloods of the time is the same propaganda that's going on today. We are literally repeating history, but we will not. I have zero confidence that we will find a path forward that provides justice for the people that have been wronged, destroyed, killed, murdered in this administration. I have no faith whatsoever.
I don't either. And you can look at American history as to why that is. Justice was never really delivered to the Confederates.
Yes.
In the Civil War.
Yep.
And Trump escaped justice we just talked about from his first term. He committed tons of crimes in that first term.
And was convicted of some, but they were prior to his presidency.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, we apparently have it's this bullshit that thinks that it's ridiculous to think that we can all come together. I am not coming together with fucking Nazis. Ever. And the Republican Party, they're Nazis now. They are.
There was some right-wing talking head, I think maybe it was Laura Loomer, that said the Republican Party has a Nazi problem.
Yeah, she did say that.
She's right.
She is.
And it's not just that so the story in the Nuremberg movie was centered around the psychiatrist who was a major in the army. I can't remember his name, who was tasked with evaluating the Nazi high command's competence for trial. He, after World War II, dedicated his life to raising the red flags about the Nazi problem in America. And of course, he was beat down mercilessly shortly after the war by even suggesting that. He was relegated to non-person status. He committed suicide in, I don't know what year it was, but he actually committed suicide the exact same way that Hermann Goering did in the Nuremberg prison. And it's so fucking depressing because he was frustrated with the fact that nobody was listening to his warnings about the Nazi problem in America. And he was right. He was always right. And he was broken under the weight of the ignorance of the American culture, turning a blind eye to the Nazi problem that has always existed in this country. It has always existed. It's never gone away. It's only gotten stronger, and now it's in power. And what are we going to do?
It's important to note, in 1939 in Madison Square Garden in New York City, 20,000 Nazis showed up to support Hitler.
Yeah.
American Nazis.
Yeah.
So they have always been here.
There's a scene, and I'm anxious to dig in to find out if this was embellished or if this actually happened. There was a army colonel that was in charge of the Nuremberg prisoners, and as they brought additional prisoners into the cells. One of them crossed paths with Goering, who was also being moved through the prison, and he did a Sig Heil in the hallway of the Nuremberg prison, and that army colonel grabbed him by the neck and slammed him against the wall and said, "Don't you ever do that again in my prison." And we would not, there's no circumstance on earth in this country today where that action would be met with that statement. It's so, this is, you would have Nazis today standing in this, and we see it all the time.
We did. Elon Musk did a Sieg Heil.
Yeah.
And
nobody grabbed him by the neck
defended.
and slammed him against the wall and said, "Don't
No.
you ever fucking do that again in my country." That's how lost we are.
Yep. All right.
Oh,
You like Stranger Things?
I gave up on it in season 2. I watched the first 4 of this chapter in the most recent, and I liked it. I mean, there's some things I had criticisms of, but
Yeah.
overall, I liked it.
I like it too. It's good.
Why? Explain to me why the characters are still in school.
Well, they're teenagers.
But they're not.
The show takes place between 1983 and 1987.
Okay, so maybe they were like freshmen in the beginning and they're seniors now?
Yeah. They're like 15 or 16 in canon, but they're like 20 in real life because the show took. But that's, James, that's normal. That is normal. Go look up how old Luke Perry was when they were doing Beverly Hills 90210.
Or the cast for the movie Grease.
Yeah.
They were in their fucking 30s.
It's normal.
Yeah.
Whole ass adults play high school kids all the time in Hollywood.
When's the next chapter coming out?
3 more episodes come out on Christmas.
Oh, okay, good.
And then there's one final episode on New Year's Eve.
And that's it for the story, right?
That is it.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably make a universe out of it and do similar things in other places with other characters, I'd imagine. I don't know.
Oh, I want to, since we're talking about celebrities, I want to bring up a conversation I had with my younger son last night. He is convinced that Stephen King is a pedophile. Okay. And he's a vociferous reader. And so he has read the Stephen King stories in book form, cover to cover multiple times. And he points out to me all of the awful child sexual material that is in, especially, I guess, the It story, and the gay bashing and all this other stuff. And it disturbs him deeply. And so he's got this theory, and he keeps adding to it, that Stephen King is a pedophile. And he lives up in Vermont. And I told him last night, I said, fucking Bangor, Maine is like an hour from you, bro. You go up there and talk to Mr. King, have a conversation with him. And he says, yeah, but he's not there now. This is just his summer home. He's somewhere. And I said, take advantage of the fact that he's not home. Get into his house, create a false wall, live inside the wall for 6 months, bring provisions, and then when he gets back, you can catch him doing his nefarious shit. And he paused and he came back and said, do you really think that'll hold up in court, that I caught him and I'm not supposed to be there? I told him I would represent him. I'd be his attorney. I'd be my cousin.
You don't encourage your kids to commit crimes, man. What?
Can you imagine if my son were on the news for living inside Stephen King's walls? It would be glorious. I'd be so proud. I'm going to send him this podcast now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, if Stephen King's a pedophile, lock him up.
Absolutely. He's creepy for sure. But Jesus Christ, look at the stories he writes. How did nobody think that maybe there's something wrong with this guy? There might very well be.
Maybe.
But we need someone to hide in his walls to catch him.
Okay. Anything else, James?
Nope. That's all I got.
All right. Then until next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Stay safe. Punch Nazis. Do all the things that nobody else is doing. Have a good week, people. Oh, my God. I'll get some good clips.